Yo, what's going on, people? It's your boy Ape Huncho, back at you again with a throwback case. So, before we get into the video, this case of course surrounds both rappers, Nino and KK, but for the sake of the throwback case, we'll be looking at it more from the perspective of KK, although Nino will be mentioned throughout the video. So KK represents BSIDE, which is located in Bellingham, and as the majority of you will know, BSIDE have many ops throughout London, but again, for the sake of the video, we'll be concentrating on their beef with Splash Gang. Now, I'm not going to dive into the history of the beef between the two sides, but Splash Gang, for you guys who didn't know, is out of the Grove Park area, and as you can see here, it only takes an 8-minute drive to get to either side. So BSIDE would rise to the forefront of drill music in 2016 and would be one of the first groups to really take on the sound of what we know UK drill to be today, and to no one's surprise, be one of the best at doing it. Along with being certified in the streets, being known as one of the most OJ gangs in London, again BSIDE would be popular amongst drill listeners from the jump, when 30 from BSIDE would drop their first known drill song on November the 12th, 2016, that being Where They Hidin'. And yes, it's been said that in 2020, DD is still in fact driving. Where They Hidin' is one of the most known UK drill songs to ever be taken down off of YouTube and then of course re-uploaded, and for you guys who didn't know, 30 actually hit up Twitter and went on to say this when the song had originally been taken down. And he went on to say, "This can't stop me, fuck the Met." Now I want to read the notification that gets sent to the uploader when they're asked to take a video down, because some of you guys may have never seen it before, and this is what it reads. "We have received a legal complaint regarding your video. After review, the following video, B-Side 30, Where They Hiding, has been blocked from view on the following YouTube country site, United Kingdom. YouTube blocks content when necessary to comply with local laws. Please review our Help Centre article on legal complaints." On a quick side note, in December of 2016, the song had in fact been re-uploaded by Mixtape Madness, but once again has since been removed off YouTube. Only one day after Where They Hiding had originally been uploaded, on the 13th of November 2016, we would then see Nino, KK and Ghost release their first video, that being Splash, which currently sits on 178k views. It's been said that KK and Nino are cousins, and although never officially a duo, the pair would release songs such as Underlay Underlay, End of Year Freestyle, and Fuck All the Music, but KK wouldn't be known massively on the drill scene until him and 30 went on Mixtape Madness's Mad About Bars on the 26th of March 2017, and that freestyle currently sits on 1.1 million views. Now, even though this would release in March of 2017, only 1 month earlier, KK would have fled to Jamaica after he got wrapped up in a case where he faced life in jail, and would only have a taste of success, seeing as he literally only just broke out onto the scene. On the 24th of February 2017, police would launch a murder investigation after 21-year-old Dean Pascal Modeste was stabbed to death after police believed that he was involved in a fight. It was said that after he was stabbed, he fled 100 yards past school pupils before eventually collapsing in Charlesfield. Emergency services were called to the scene in Lambscroft Avenue in Mottingham at 3:45 p.m. They then found Dean suffering from stab injuries, of course, in Charlesfield. Paramedics had fought to save his life, but unfortunately he was pronounced dead at the scene. Close to the scene, 3 teenage boys aged 16, 18 and 19, alongside a 20-year-old, were all arrested on suspicion of murder and were being questioned by police at South London police stations. The 4 would then go on to be bailed by police. One neighbour who didn't want to be named said she first became aware of what happened when police helicopters began buzzing overhead at 4 p.m. She said, "From what I can gather, he was stabbed in the car park and then managed to walk across the road, which is where he died." A post-mortem examination was held at Greenwich Mortuary, which gave Dean's cause of death as stab wounds, but it was said that he had also suffered from head injuries from the attack. Then, on the 3rd of March 2017, a 17-year-old went on to be charged with Dean's murder and possession of an offensive weapon. On the 8th of March 2017, detectives went on to arrest another 19-year-old male, that being Devon Pusey, aka Nino, on suspicion of murder, and he was bailed until early April, and at this point police had come out to tell the public that Dean had been murdered in a case of mistaken identity. Upon returning to the police station, Nino was then charged with murder and possession of an offensive weapon. At some point in March, police would also go on to arrest and charge another 17-year-old boy and 18-year-old Uzome Omafa in relation to Dean's murder. At some point after all four went on to be charged, the two 17-year-olds, that being Alex Scott and Corey Donaldson, would appear at court, and they were told that they were charged with murder and possession of an offensive weapon, and a trial date was given to them for August the 29th, 2017. Then on the 12th of April 2017, Nino and Uzomi would make their first court appearance, and it was heard that the pair were a part of a gang that attacked Dean in a case of mistaken identity, because of course Dean had no links to the area. Dean had lived in Barking and was said to have travelled to Mottingham to help his friends shoot a music video in Grove Park. Prosecutor Crispin Aylett QC said the victim was attacked by a group of hooded youths said to have been armed with knives and machetes. A firearm was seen by a witness, but this was not used, and this was thought to be gang related. Although to start, the trial date was given for the 29th of August 2017, it had now been pushed back until the further date, that being the 2nd of October 2017, and this meant that 3 of the 4, that being the two 17-year-olds Alex and Corey and the 18-year-old Uzomi, was to stand on trial at that date. 19-year-old Nino was to stand on trial in March of 2018. So the trial would get underway on the 4th of October 2017, and it was heard that Dean was a filmmaker and that he'd been ambushed by a gunman on a moped and was then stabbed 14 times by the gang like a pack of wolves, which then led to his death. It was heard that the 3 on trial were linked to the notorious BSIDE gang and that they were in a feud with Splash Gang, but Dean wasn't affiliated with Splash Gang and lived in Barking. However, he was with Gabriel Tavares and Keanu Noble, who were in fact linked to the gang, and the 3 had planned to record a music video for YouTube on the day of the attack. Jurors were then told about how the 2 gangs had traded insults in drill music videos before the killing had taken place. Prosecutor Crispin Aylett QC had told the Old Bailey the murder of Dean has its roots in a poisonous feud between the Splash Gang and the B-Side Gang. In other words, Dean was stabbed to death not for who he was or for anything he had done. Instead, he was murdered for the company that he had kept. He added members and associates of the B-Side Gang made music videos that were placed onto YouTube. One such video featured the well-known disc jockey Tim Westwood, who was known by the name Westwood. The Splash Gang had also done a session with Tim Westwood Straight Grove Freestyle Westwood Crib Session. In the video, there is a reference to a girl who's described as a B-side pagan hoe. Describing the events of what happened on that fateful day, he continued, Dean had travelled from his home in Barking and met up with Gabriel and Keanu to shoot a music video for YouTube. When they got to the Chimbrook estate, Gabriel went into the house of someone that he knew, and Dean and Keanu sat waiting on a wall outside the house, into which Gabriel had gone into. Suddenly, as if from nowhere, 2 mopeds appeared. The mopeds pulled up not too far from where Dean and Keanu were sitting on the wall. A youth on one of the mopeds then produced a gun and pointed it at both Dean and Keanu. They then turned and ran away. As they ran, a group of 6 or so youths appeared on foot, and they started chasing after Dean and Keanu. Again, that group seemed to have come out of nowhere. The only conclusion the prosecution suggests that you can draw from all of this is that those on the mopeds were acting in concert with those who were on foot. So this was then an ambush on 2 fronts. As Dean and Keanu ran in different directions, the chasing group concentrated on Dean. A witness who saw the group running after Dean has described them as, in her words, running like a pack of wolves. Dean was hunted down and surrounded. The group of youths crowded around him and attacked him. A number of them, if not all of them, must have been armed with weapons. In the course of a pitiless attack, Dean sustained 14 separate stab wounds. While some of those wounds were superficial, a number of them were not. In particular, 2 blows were struck with such force as to split Dean's ribs and penetrate his left lung. Once the group had finished with Dean, they ran off. By this time, the mopeds would seem already to have sped away. Dean was left lying on the ground, bleeding to death. How sad and senseless this all must have been. At the trial, it was also heard that Jartel Williamson, aged 21, had fled the country and is believed to have gone to Baltimore in the United States, and Kai Stewart, aka KK, aged 17 at that point, had fled the UK to Jamaica. Then on the 17th of November 2017, the 2 17-year-olds, now turned 18, that being Alex Scott and Corey Donaldson, were found guilty of the murder of Dean as forensic studies of knives found in a nearby garden, phone logs and CCTV footage were used against them to bring the guilty verdict upon them. 20-year-old Izomi Amafa was cleared of all charges brought against him. The judge then postponed the sentencing date until the 29th of November 2017. On that date, the 2 were then both handed life sentences with a minimum term of at least 18 years. Passing sentencing sentencing, Judge Philip Katz QC slammed the teens for laughing and joking in the dock during their trial. He said, "Here is yet another loving family struggling to come to terms with a pointless loss of life, which came about because thugs like you walk the streets with vicious weapons, all too ready to use them." Dean was a much-loved son and brother with a promising future and much to live for. He hoped for a career in music. The judge also praised Dean's family for sitting with dignity throughout the trial, but told the killers, "I wish you had shown some dignity in court. When the jury was not in court, you fooled around in the dock as if it were a joke." He said both teenagers had told a pack of lies to the jury, and said that Alex Scott, who was armed with a bread knife in the deadly attack, had approached the criminal case as if it were a game. He went on to say, "This was an ambush. Dean was cut down and butchered by your group. This was in broad daylight at the time when parents were collecting their children from school." The judge had also added that prior to the murder, Corey Donaldson was brandishing his knife like a fashion accessory. In March of 2018, another trial would take place where now Nino and KK were to stand charged with the murder of Dean and other charges of possession of an offensive weapon. Although KK had fled to Jamaica, it seems like around the time the first trial was wrapping up, he made his way back to the UK but was arrested at Gatwick Airport and was charged the following day. This time there isn't much in-depth reporting, but what is brought up again is what we've previously spoken about in regards to the events of the day, and again the war between BSIDE and Splash Gang. And a little bit more in-depth though, evidence was shown to the jury which included rap videos involving Nino and KK, where it was said they made attempts to conceal their appearance, and a picture was shown which showed Nino next to Tim Westwood. The prosecution said in one of BSIDE's YouTube videos it included the lyric "Dip splash till the splash is done," and prosecutors say dip means to stab. Again, what is brought up is that Splash Gang had recorded a crib session declaring themselves kings of Louis, and the prosecution went on to say such a claim have put the Splash Gang at odds with the B-Side Gang, who also claim to run Louis, meaning Lewisham. He said that the feud appeared to be over bragging rights and so-called control of the Lewisham area. And again, what is told is that when the police had searched the area, again finding the 3 knives that were believed to be used in the attack, some DNA evidence was found to be linked to Nino. Inquiries also found mobile phone records showing a group of men in contact before Dean's murder that linked both KK and Nino to the killing. On the 3rd of May 2018, both KK and Nino were found guilty for their roles in Dean's murder, and before he remanded both into custody ahead of their sentencing hearing, he warned those attracted to drill music may be putting themselves in the sights of warring gangs. He went on to say, "This is yet another dreadful example of London's knife crime. Gangs interested in using violence solely because someone comes from a different district or postcode. Such violence is often fueled by musical taunts online, posted on YouTube or other social media outlets. Music, of course, does not kill people. Music is a great cause for good, whatever genre or type. But there is a legitimate concern about the glamorization of violence in some sort of material we hear in these cases, and this is a good example of this." Then, on the 17th of May 2018, KK was handed a life sentence to serve a minimum of 17 years, and Nino was handed a life sentence to serve a minimum of 20 years. It was reported that there were minor spats between friends of both the victim and the defendants after the sentences were passed. And outside of court, a close friend of Dean's, Joanna Williamson, said that she was relieved but that she wasn't happy, and said that the whole drill culture was a tragic curse. And that is the throwback case of KK from B-Side. Now, what's interesting about this case is I know there was rumours going around about Nino snitching, but from my research and from what I've looked at, I can't find anything that suggests that. But again, I didn't have in-depth details about the second trial, so I don't know whether that's a fact or not. And again, it is just a rumour that was going around, and people do strongly believe that that was the case. But again, I just want to express from my research that I've done surrounding this whole case, I couldn't find nothing to suggest that. And of course, in this case, Dean had sadly went on to lose his life. So I just want to pay my respects and say rest in peace to Dean, and my condolences are with his family. But let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section below. Give the video a little like, and if you want the latest drill, street and music news out of the UK, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your boy Huncho, and I'm out.